Ever get those grammar gremlins? You know, those pesky little mistakes that sneak into your writing and speech, making you second-guess yourself? They can be quite the nuisance, can't they? Picture this. You're at the supermarket, zipping through the aisles, trying to get your shopping done as quickly as possible. You're in a hurry, and your mind is racing with a million thoughts. Suddenly, you see a sign. It says, 10 items or less. You stop in your tracks, your eyes narrowing as you read it again. Something doesn't feel right, but you can't quite put your finger on it. A tiny grammar gremlin pops up on your shoulder. Shouldn't that be fewer? It whispers. You start to wonder, is it less or fewer? Why does it even matter? Don't worry, we've all been there. You're not alone in this grammatical conundrum. Many people struggle with these tricky little words. English grammar can be tricky, especially when it comes to less and fewer. These words may seem interchangeable, but they have distinct uses that can change the meaning of a sentence. But fear not, grammar hero. You have the power to conquer these gremlins and master the art of proper word usage. Understanding the difference between these two little words is easier than you think. Fewer is used for countable items like apples or books, while less is used for uncountable quantities like water or sand. With a few simple tips, you'll be using less and fewer like a pro in no time. Practice makes perfect, and soon enough you'll be correcting signs in your head without a second thought. Ready to banish those grammar gremlins for good? Let's dive in. Together, we'll explore more examples and tips to ensure you never get tripped up by less and fewer again. So, grab your grammar cape and let's get started on this exciting journey to grammatical mastery. The golden rule is surprisingly simple. Use fewer for things you can count, and less for things you can't. This might seem like a small detail, but it can make a big difference in how clearly you communicate. Think of it like this. Fewer goes with things you can individually pick up, like apples, coins, or people. If you can count them one by one, fewer is your go-to word. Less goes with things that are more like one big blob, like water, time, or traffic. These are things you can't easily separate into individual units. Easy, right? So, next time you're at the supermarket, you'll know it should be 10 items or fewer. This rule helps you sound more polished and professional. You're counting individual items, so fewer is the way to go. Imagine you're at the checkout line and you see a sign that says 10 items or less. Technically, it should say 10 items or fewer. See? You're already a grammar star. By mastering this simple rule, you're well on your way to becoming a more effective communicator. So go ahead, impress your friends and colleagues with your newfound knowledge. Happy counting. Of course, English grammar wouldn't be complete without a few tricky situations. These little pitfalls can trip up even the most seasoned writers and speakers. It's important to be aware of them so you can avoid making common mistakes that might confuse your readers or listeners. One common mistake is using less with plural nouns. This is a frequent error that can easily be corrected with a bit of attention and practice. For example, saying less people instead of fewer people. This mistake happens because less is often used in everyday conversation, but it's not always grammatically correct. Remember, if you can count it, use fewer. This rule applies to things like people, apples, books, and other countable items. Another trap is using less for units of measurement, even though they seem countable. This can be a bit confusing because units of measurement like kilometers, liters, and pounds are technically countable, but we treat them differently in grammar. For instance, we say less than 10 kilometers, not fewer than 10 kilometers. This is because we're thinking about the distance as a whole, not individual kilometers. This is because we're thinking about the distance as a whole, not individual kilometers. Stay vigilant, grammar warriors. By paying attention to these details, you can improve your writing and speaking skills. Keep practicing, and soon these rules will become second nature. Happy learning.